Let's go. Here we go. The stream has started. This is my second time doing it because the first time I messed up. I didn't do all the work beforehand, and then I had to start over. So you got to remember to do everything first before you start the stream because you can't really stop it. So anyway, welcome to Reading the News. Here I read the news. Yeah, it's pretty simple. I just go to Google News and I just start from the top and I start reading. It's only my third time doing it. Usually I read it from my phone, and those articles are way more interesting. I think because I've just started actually clicking on news, Google doesn't know what to send me, so they're kind of giving me a lot of vanilla articles. But here we go. We'll get into something a little bit more juicy at some point. But, we got to start simple. First thing first, though, is we got to... Who watched the Dodgers last night? They're up 2-0 against the Cubs. They won the World Series last year, the Cubs, and now we're up 2-0 against them. And to make matters even better, they won yesterday on a walk-off 3-run home run by Justin Turner, bottom of the ninth, 2 outs. It was the best possible thing that could have happened, and it happened. So yeah, way to go Dodgers. And I don't know if we're going to get to sports because we never really seem to get to sports, but maybe if we don't get to sports, had to get that out of the way. Dodgers are up 2-0. And here we go. Army Sergeant Bo Bergdahl, held captive for 5 years, pleads guilty in connection with disappearance. So let's click on this. Army Sergeant Bo Bergdahl, who vanished in Afghanistan and spent 5 years in brutal captivity before the United States recovered him in a controversial prisoner swap, pleaded guilty Monday in an Army courtroom to 2 crimes in connection with his disappearance. All right, so I read that a little bit too fast. Got to catch my breath. But yeah, this is the guy they had a sweet podcast on him. You got to go to iTunes and check it out. I totally forget what it was called, but Bo Bergdahl, just put in Bo Bergdahl podcast into Google and it'll come up. This guy was he was kind of in the shit in Afghanistan, and he went a little crazy, and then he got captured. Bo Bergdahl, 31, entered pleas to charges of desertion and misbehavior before the enemy at Fort Bragg. I gotta start over. Bergdahl, 31, entered the pleas to charges of desertion and misbehavior before the enemy at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. The desertion charge could yield a sentence of up to 5 years, while the misbehavior before an enemy charge carries a penalty up to life in confinement. Well, that seems awfully harsh for one soldier. If you got tens of thousands of soldiers someplace, one of them is gonna get into trouble. That seems like a huge sentence for a 20-year-old. The rarely used charge is applied to situations in which a service member runs away, surrenders, or endangers the safety of colleagues through disobedience, neglect, or intentional misconduct. Well, that is something that he did do because everybody was looking for him. And he just got captured because he was dumb. The pleas signal the beginning of the end of the case that has been politically charged for years during his White House campaign. President Trump often accused him of being a traitor, but he says that about everybody and suggested that he would have been executed for deserting. In reality, no military deserter has been put to death since World War II. Way to go, Trump. Just saying something that's incorrect. Bergdahl walked away from his combat outpost just before midnight, June 29th in 2009, in what Army investigation determined was an attempt to cause a crisis to draw attention to the concerns that Bergdahl had about his leaders. The soldier was captured within hours by armed Taliban fighters on motorcycles. What a shocker. And turned over to the Haqqani Network, a group in Palestine that tortured him on and off for years. The Haqqani Network is actually a group that we've been talking about a lot recently. And it's just kind of like they're the same as the Taliban, but just kind of their own little army. And they're more kind of Pakistani. They're more in Pakistan than Afghanistan. And they're a little bit more hardcore because they kind of have protection from the Pakistani government. Anyway, basically, that seems like an awfully harsh sentence. Let's hope if anything, just gets 1 year. He definitely messed up. The problem is he caused loads of money. We spent loads of money trying to find him. And then it cost us 5 prisoners at Guantanamo Bay to get him back. So hate to spend five prisoners for one and then just put him in jail. Let's put him back on the front lines. All right, that was a joke. Nonetheless, that seems awfully strict. You should go listen to the podcast. This is a much more complicated story than you can say in one article. All right, moving on. Here we go. Iraqi forces sweep into Kirkuk, checking Kurdish Independence Drive. Here we go. Kirkuk, Iraq. Oh, goodness gracious. They want you to pay. I have 4 articles remaining this month. Let's get this out of here. No. Oh, come on, New York Times. I don't want to be... All right, how do I get... there we go. Come on. Just put a little X up there. You don't got to be confusing. All right. Here we go. Weeks after threats and posturing, Iraq's government began a military assault on Monday to blunt the independence drive by the nation's Kurdish minority, wresting oil fields and a contested city from separatists who have been pushing to break away from Iraq. All right, I'm going to read that one more time. After weeks of threats and posturing, Iraq's government began a military assault on Monday to blunt the independence drive by the nation's Kurdish minority, taking oil fields and contesting city from separatists who have been pushing to break away from Iraq. Oh man, this is something that everybody knew was going to happen. The Kurdish people have kept up their end of the bargain in this whole Iraq situation since we went in like 2002. They've had enough. They want their own shit. They want their own country, and these separatists won't stop. All right, this is one that we gotta, as a country, we gotta be kind of nice to these guys. Is the problem? I guess it's not a problem, but we gotta put gloves on. All right. So government troops seized the vital city of Kirkuk and surrounding oil fields, ousting Kurdish forces who had controlled the region for 3 years in their effort to build up an independent nation in the northern city of Iraq, or in the northern third of Iraq. The Kurds voted overwhelmingly in a referendum 3 weeks ago for independence from Iraq. The United States, Baghdad, and most countries in the region condemned the vote, fearing it would fuel ethnic divisions across the region. Lead up to the break in Iraq, the hobble and fight against the Islamic State. So basically, the Kurdish people have wanted their own state for a long time, even when Saddam Hussein was still alive. They were fighting Saddam Hussein, and now they want their own state. And I guess they had Kirkuk, which is a pretty big city. I don't know, hundreds of thousands of people. And if the government troops just took it like that, that could lead to some major problems. We'll see. Baghdad gave the Kurdish leadership an ultimatum to annul their vote or face the possibility that Iraq would take disputed areas of Kirkuk by force. The quick advance Monday pitted one American-trained military force against another. This is when the Americans got to get out. We should not be in the middle of a country's infighting. I don't know. It's a tough situation to be in. It's too bad we didn't solve this problem when we went into Iraq the first time, like under Bush, like years ago. But we never quite had an exit strategy for Iraq, and it is still rough. But these problems have existed even before we went in. The problem is now we're involved. Iraqi government troops and the Kurdish forces known as the Peshmerga are both part of the American-led coalition battling the Islamic State. All right, so everyone's kicked out the Islamic State. They realize we need guns, we need military people to secure these cities because the Americans left. So now they're ready to go. And I guess the Baghdad government took back Kirkuk. So, I mean, I guess if Baghdad owns Kirkuk and the Kurds are not allowed to do that, it's something you got to do. But yeah, this is a pretty good article. Here we go. But aside from a few isolated skirmishes, Iraq forces took the region without a fight and few confirmed casualties. After brokering an agreement with the Kurdish faction that controlled Kirkuk, a multi-ethnic city of Kurds, Arabs, and Turkmens. As cheering crowds looked on, Iraqi forces removed a Kurdish flag that had flown over Kirkuk governor's compound and left intact an Iraqi flag mounted beside it. They said Iraqi troops were driving through the city, removing Peshmerga flags and banners and replacing them with Iraqi flags. All right, so it went down without a fight. Just a couple skirmishes here and there, but that's going to happen when you got thousands of people with guns. But they're actually able to make an agreement. So after just so much misery and strife in these cities in Iraq, good to see one. Maybe the Kurds can't be happy about the situation, but at least they weren't willing to kill more for it because there's just been enough killing. So this overall seems like a good story. Except maybe we should give the Kurds their own state. All right, moving on. If Trump doesn't want a nuclear war with North Korea, no first-use pledge might work better than threats. All right, well, this is we don't even have to read this one. North Korea has no incentive to blow anybody up. The guy that runs the joint knows that he's going to be gone instantly, but he still has every incentive to threat that he's going to use it. At the negotiating table, he has no incentive to bomb anybody. He could have easily done it over the last 30 years. Didn't do it. Highly doubt he's going to keep doing it. And the problem is that Trump also uses the media the same way that this little dictator does. So, when it gets on Twitter, things get crazy. But it's all posturing. It's all brinksmanship. And these people, they're more interested in their own interests. And they're not going to put that at risk. He's not going to blow up Seattle. All right, moving on. Former Hurricane Ophelia rocks Ireland with 100-mile-per-hour winds and gusts. Man, there's a hurricane in Ireland. You got to read about this one. Who knew? Yep, there we go. Oh, look at that. Man, these maps are so sweet. All right, so it looks like Dublin. It really getting hit by the brunt of this thing. That is some pretty dark red, right over Dublin. London, green yellow. They got it pretty easy, and Paris they just got a little shower. But wow, who knew that there were hurricanes like this that go over the English Channel? Let's read about it. Former Hurricane Ophelia. How is it a former hurricane? It seems like it's still Ophelia, but anyway. Former Hurricane Ophelia plowed into southern Ireland early Monday, unleashing wind gusts and as high as 119 miles per hour, ripping off roofs and downing trees. The Irish meteorological, man, I can't even say that word. Hang tight, people. Meteorological service. Meteorological. Man, that is a super weird word. I bet you that's just because they're meteorologists. But the way that's written, it's because they're English, so they just have a different way to say it. Anyway, the Irish Meteorology Service said it would be the country's strongest storm in 50 years. The BBC reported the storm had caused at least 3 deaths. The Journal, an Irish news outlet, said unprecedented 360,000 customers were without power. Well, is that a lot of people without power? I don't know. I guess it's unprecedented. Schools throughout Ireland were closed Monday and Tuesday, and bus and rail services were extremely linked. Okay, well, this is just more hurricanes. I hate to say it. Global warming is happening, people. It's scary, but we got to talk about it. And look at that. These satellite images are so sweet. And that looks like a storm right over the English Channel. All right, let's keep reading. All of Ireland was on, quote, status red, wind warning, the highest level. Several locations, mostly in extreme southwest Ireland, reported wind gusts exceeding hurricane force. All right, so 119 mph gust at Fastnet Rock, a lighthouse about 8 miles offshore of southwest Ireland, a height of 200 feet. At a height of 200 feet. Well, that seems pretty high in the air. If nobody's gonna be standing at 200 feet. So anyway, 97 mile per hour gust at Rancho's Point, a lighthouse to Cork Harbor. Gotta love these names. 84 mile per hour gust at Sherkin Island. Anyway, this is it's a big storm. Wind gusts, tropical storm force, in Ireland. So it's more of a tropical storm than a hurricane, I think. Not totally sure. We'll watch one more video. This is interesting. I mean, who knew they even had hurricanes in England? Yeah, that's somebody's roof flying off. We'll watch one more time. Check it out. Watch this roof. There it is. You know, roofs and wind don't get along so great. All right. Okay, we're moving on. Clinton calls Assange a tool of Russian intelligence from Politico. This one's hard. At the beginning, I think Assange had good. I think he has good intentions, and he started to. And then once they blocked him up, he just things changed, and I think he might. Who knows? If everyone's saying he's a tool of the Russian government, maybe he's a tool of the Russian government. Hillary Clinton denounced WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange as a, quote, tool of the Russian intelligence, speaking out against the organization's role in her 2016 electoral defeat during an interview airing Monday. Well, there is no doubt about it. WikiLeaks, not a big fan of Hillary Clinton, considering she was kind of the one that put and kept Assange in the embassy. It seems like he had every reason to put out emails that definitely had some value to the public. The former Democratic presidential nominee told Australian Broadcasting Corp that Assange, whose whistleblowing organization uploaded a trove of Clinton campaign emails in 2016, plagued her candidacy for months. He trolled her bad. He trolled her super bad. And the Russians were in on it. Had, quote, become a kind of nihilistic opportunist who does the bidding of a dictator, Russian President Vladimir Putin. Let's see, she added, he's a tool of Russian intelligence, and if he's such a martyr of free speech, why doesn't WikiLeaks ever publish anything coming out of Russia? That's a good point, I guess. The former Secretary of State has been outspoken in her criticism of the role Russia's influence campaign played in her loss. Well, it definitely made a difference. I can totally see why she'd be pissed. You know what? To a certain extent, this needs to be talked about. But Hillary, you lost. You wrote it all down in your book. Now do something about it, because we all know that it happened. Let's go. He claims to be a champion of transparency for many years, but he's been helpful. See, the thing about Julian Assange is he's obviously very, very, very smart, and he gets media. But I think somehow he published Hillary's emails from the State Department once, and that got everybody pissed off. And then he published her emails. Who knows what Hillary did to Vladimir Putin to piss him off so much? And that's what I want to know. It had to be Syria, but there's no doubt Putin went all in to keep Hillary out. Who knows what she ever did to Putin? That may be something we'll never know. But Putin won. All right, moving on. I don't know what I think about that. I tend to err on information getting out than information staying in. But that one was very, very detrimental to her campaign. It just kept her distracted. White House paper, corporate tax cut would boost wages. That would be sweet, but that's just going to be a standard supply side economics article about half the side saying, "Oh yeah, well, if you cut taxes for the rich, they can invest more in their businesses," and then the other side says, "We don't know if that's true." And then the other side, "Yeah, well, it probably is," and then that's that's as far as the argument ever goes. But in the end, the rich people always think, you know what, we can invest more in you guys. And I don't know if it's true or not. So we'll skip that one. Let's go to the world. Spain, let's see, how long have I been going? I've been going 19 minutes. Spain tightens leash on Catalan police chief as rebels hold firm. This is Spain, the rich state that makes all the money, wants to break away from Spain. We read an article about this before. Who knows if they're even allowed to do it? You know what? I'm sorry. It's not that I don't care about Spain. I'm just not that interested. I hope that this gets settled and everybody's happy. The latest former Al-Shabaab leader condemns Somali attack. That's kind of interesting. I thought they were behind it. The latest, oh God, we got Christmas tops for everybody. Now they're selling nerdy Christmas sweaters. If I had to pick one right now, I'd go with the one with Santa's. That one's my favorite. Santa's right across your chest. Yeah. All right, here we go. Let's get rid of that. The latest, new Al-Shabaab claims don't include bombing. So I guess they're saying they didn't do it. Mogadishu, nothing's ever good going down in Mogadishu for the last 20 years. The latest on deadly bombing in Somalia's capital, all times local, the Al-Shabaab extremist group is claiming responsibility for a number of recent attacks in Somalia, but not Saturday's huge truck bomb that left more than 300 people dead. Wow, that is a huge bomb. Somalia's government has blamed Al-Shabaab for the country's deadliest attack, but the extremist group has not commented on it. Instead, the site intelligence group says Al-Shabaab in the past 2 weeks has claimed responsibility for 24 attacks on Somali and African Union forces, as well as killing one government official and wounding the other. Al-Shabaab posted its latest claims on social media on Monday. Well, Al-Shabaab is more politically, and they just kind of want to control territory, and they're more of an army than, like, let's say ISIS. This is a huge. They just use terrorists and ISIS and Al Qaeda tactics, but they seem to be more in like a tribal war in the country, and it's just a little bit different. It's a little bit different lens than other. This one isn't. They don't have to be Muslim in order to do this kind of fighting. Anyway, that's beside the point. What a terrible bomb that was. 300 people. A former leader of Al-Shabaab extremist group who surrendered to Somalia's government earlier this year has condemned Saturday's bombing that killed more than 300 people. Sheikh Mukhtar Robow called the deadliest ever attack in Somalia an, quote, irreligious and heartless act. The truck bomb targeted a crowd in the Mogadishu. Somalia's government has blamed Al-Shabaab, which is not yet commented. All right, so we don't know. It's probably Al-Shabaab. But it's, I guess if you're doing loads of attacks, if this is your Tet offensive, if you're doing loads of attacks and then you do one huge one, maybe it's in your interest not to claim it, because then they're going to spend more time trying to figure out who did it. I don't know. It's probably them. Deadly fires sweep Portugal and northern Spain. We've just been reading about these fires in Central California, in the wine country, in Napa Valley. Now we're going to Spain. I will say that Spain and Portugal, they're usually pretty quiet, especially Portugal. Nothing ever happens in Portugal, and they don't make the news too often, but we're reading a lot about Spain right now. They're being extremely loud. Here we go. At least 35 people have been killed and dozens more injured by wildfires in Portugal and northern Spain as strong winds from a hurricane fanned hundreds of blazes sweeping across densely forested territory. Now, this is what I'm going to read that again, and I'm going to. This is how I read this. At least 35 people have been killed and dozens more injured by wildfires in Portugal and northern Spain, as strong winds from a hurricane fanned hundreds of blazes sweeping across the densely forested territory. So strong winds from a hurricane. Is this the hurricane that we just read about? Is this because when you hear about like global warming and how it is going to affect us, it's more extreme. It's just more extremes in weather. And if we got a hurricane that's going to UK, and it hasn't happened in 50 years, and then a downstream cost to that is also strong winds in Spain that start a forest fire, you can totally see that butterfly effect of how it's bad when there's hurricanes all over the place. The authorities in Portugal declared a state of emergency in affected areas over the weekend when about 500 fires were reported in the central and northern regions, and they raised the death toll to 31. About 4,000 firefighters were working to extinguish at least 65 blazes Monday morning. Across the border in Spain, fires reached the outskirts of the port city of Vigo, forcing the temporary closing of a car factory. So this is reading exactly like the articles in Central California. Forest fires is something that humans have been dealing with for a long time. They're not going to go away. Hate to, you know what? I don't know if that one was worth using up one of my 4 remaining articles on the New York Times. All right, let's just read a little bit more. Oh, we got a photo out of it, or maybe now is worth it. Should have just scrolled down. Wow, that's amazing. What a great photo. Let's hope these guys are getting paid pretty well. Now that's just devastation. But what's crazy are those trees are still alive, aren't they? The trees know how to survive. It's just the brush that gets, man. Brush fires are crazy, and supposedly it helps out the nutrients of the soil that the earth. This is just kind of a natural occurrence, and it just sucks we live on it, and sometimes it messes up your car. But the trees look fine. And I bet you the squirrel. I wonder if the squirrels have got to be up in the trees. Like, what the hell? The area also saw some relief. However, as rain began to fall early Monday and was expected to intensify, the rain has now been helping us. All right, so it started raining. Fires looking like they're in control. Now they just got to watch out for landslides. Moving on. Austria's rightward lurch is Europe's new normal. This has got to be. There's just a wave of populist movements across Europe and just in the West right now in general. And it's manifested itself in Brexit in the UK, and Trump in America, and France was the only one that didn't go the other way. But anyway, I guess Austria's elected in a conservative or more right-wing government. Let's take a look at all these white people. Yep, loads of white people. In general, I would say they look, these guys are wearing jeans. But they look pretty right-wing. In Brussels, rather than a sudden lurch to the right, the victory of conservative and far-right parties in Austria's elections Sunday was another reflection of the new normal in Europe, where anti-immigration populism and nationalism are challenging the European Union's commitment to open borders for trade and immigration. Well, I can imagine this is a really tough issue to handle right now. It is hard for any country to take in loads of immigrants. I can see why people are voting this way, and it's also something that's kind of you can take. It's a topic and it's an issue that you can really galvanize people on. So yeah, maybe this is just a jolt to the system of conservatives, and it's going to slowly get back to normal. Let's keep going. Nearly 58% of all Austrians who voted cast ballots for center-right or far-right parties, with the far-right Freedom Party running neck-to-neck for second place with the establishment center-left. But the theme of the election was identity, anti-immigration, anti-Islam, Islamization, with the charismatic winner, Sebastian Kurz, just 31. Oh my goodness, a 31-year-old just took over the government in Austria. We got to look into this guy, Sebastian Kurz, or Sebastian Kurz. Got to be a badass, absorbing much of the far right's agenda and transforming his once mainstream conservative People's Party. Oh man, so he just galvanized the Conservative Party. 31. Something makes me think this guy understands media. Probably learned a lot from Trump. Mr. Kurz must now decide whether to create a coalition with the far-right Freedom Party or to renew a coalition with the center-left Social Democrats, which would ease European concerns to some degree about another populist party in the government. But the message is clear. Populism is vibrant in democratic Europe, and especially in its eastern precincts. I don't know if Austria is considered too eastern. But yeah, they're like, screw this. Let's chill out on the Muslims. Who knows if that's a correct decision or a wrong decision? But if you don't have the resources to handle loads of new people, it seems dumb to bring them in. But then where else do they go? Who knows? That's a tough question. This story is more about the right-wing lurch of Europe. Ivan Krastev, a political scientist who works in Vienna, and Sofia, Bulgaria, sees the migration crisis, which has hardly ended, as the main threat to the European Union. Quote, the resistance of liberals to conceding any negative effects of migration has triggered the anti-establishment, particularly the anti-mainstream media reaction. Okay, so this same thing is happening there that's happening here. They have Alex Jones. And you can, almost all revolutions back in the day always have somebody writing. There's a guy in France during the French Revolution that was writing from a bathtub. Trolled the whole French Revolution, and you can do this, and Alex Jones does it too. But yeah, you can say, look at these liberals, they're not being honest about immigration from countries that have majority Islam people. They're not talking about it in an honest way, and that makes them mad. And then they vote hard right because they actually are right about one issue. I don't know. It's a bad situation. I think even you can say that even when Obama and Hillary were not very, very specific and direct about Muslims, and they talked about it with like, oh, all Muslims are kind of they're just the same religion as us, but just a little bit different, and they kind of talked about it in not totally honest ways. There was a reaction, and most people said, you know what, Trump could be wrong about everything, but the squirrel even the blind squirrel finds a nut, and it just so happened that he talked about this one issue honestly, and that seemed to carry a lot of weight, along with other stuff he did. So that seems to be where the rubber hits the road in these kinds of articles. Mr. Krastev sees the divisions over migration mostly sharply between the countries of Western Europe like Germany and those of the East like Poland, Hungary, and the Czech Republic, which view, quote, the very cosmopolitan values on which the European Union is based as a threat. The populist revolt is not simply against mainstream parties, he argues, but against rhetoric, against meritocratal. It's a meritocratic, who knows, elites, these people... meritocratic. You know what? I'm not even going to try to say that word. Elites who have arguably lost touch with their roots. Man, let's see. Oh, meritocracy. Meritocratic elites. Man, I think the words might be a little bit different in Europe, but that's a meritocracy, but just written in a way that I've never seen it written. Here we go. Here's a photo of immigrants in Slovenia. It looks like they're just passing through though, so that's good for the Slovenians if they don't want them there, but they had to go somewhere. Yeah, and if we wouldn't have started the Syrian war, there wouldn't be quite so many. But that's more Russia. That's more on Russia and America, and I think actually Hillary Clinton has some blame on that, but not totally sure. In Austria, which likes to think of itself as a bridge between Western and Eastern countries of Europe, Mr. Kurz faces a serious choice: try to isolate a populist party, as in Sweden, or bring it into the government and try to blame it as in Norway. In Austria, which likes to think of itself as the bridge between Western and Eastern countries of Europe, Mr. Kurz faces a serious choice: try to isolate a populist party, as in Sweden, or to bring into government and bring it into government and try to tame it, as in Norway. But with nationalist populist parties already a part of several European governments, and in power in Hungary and Poland, the European Union has little appetite for imposing sanctions or other penalties. All right, we got to read that one again. That was a tough paragraph. Here we go. In Austria, which likes to think of itself as the bridge between Western and Eastern countries of Europe, Mr. Kurz, the newly elected political guy, faces a serious choice: try to isolate a populist party. And that's kind of the party that got him to win, as in Sweden. So I guess that happened in Sweden, or to bring it into government and try to tame it. Do we bring in these Trumpians and try to work with them, or do we kick them out? But with nationalist populist parties already in part of several European countries and in power, Hungary and Poland, the European Union has little appetite for imposing sanctions or other penalties. So they're saying that the European Union. They're stretched. They're stretched thin as it is, and they can't really do anything about it anyway. So Kurz wins. This is actually pretty sweet. I'm gonna read more about this in my spare time. He's 31. That guy looks like a pretty old 31-year-old, if that's him. We're moving on. The Daily 202. Trump attacks on Senate Republicans are paying political dividends. You know what? Washington Post. Oh, this is Trump's speech on scapegoating the Senate GOP is proving to be an effective political strategy for President Trump. Yeah, the thing about Trump is He's not playing politics. People love to talk about everything he's done in the last 2 years. They love to talk about it in a political discussion. But he's not doing politics. He's doing media. All he's doing is making headlines. He's not doing politics. You can't take him. You got to put on a different pair. You got to put on a different suit. But he's doing media when everyone else is doing politics. Scapegoating the Senate GOP has proven to be an effective political strategy for President Trump. Activists and donors on the right are primed to blame congressional Democrats, not him, if there is no sweeping rewrite on the nation's tax laws, just as they did the failure to repeal Obamacare. So basically, Trump knows that he's not going to be able to get anything done because, one, he's incompetent, and two, it's hard. I mean, it took for Obama to do anything. It was impossible. So he sees the burden of work it takes to do anything, and he knows nothing's going to happen, and now he's trying to make it look like the Republicans in Congress aren't helping, which they're not. Just kind of a smart media move from Trump. Let's put all my time into blaming them, and then in the end, Obama's policies just stay in longer. Because the longer that Trump does nothing, Obama's policies are just going to get farther and farther into the system. Anyway, a CBS News Tracker survey published Sunday showed that majorities want more cooperation between Congress and Trump, especially the president's strongest backers and most Republicans. The most fascinating nugget from the poll, 39% of Republicans feel that their party's congressional representatives don't like the president and are trying to actively undermine him, while 37% think congressional Republicans don't like Trump but pretend to and try passing their own agenda. Of course, if they're going to try to get everything in they can while they can, and they're not going to openly fight with Trump. But they said the same thing about Obama. I mean, Obama was kind of an outsider to politics. I mean, he was just a senator for a little while. He was still kind of considered an outsider. The fact that he was black didn't help. And, at the beginning, nobody liked to work with him. Everybody was doing their own thing. And Trump is even more of an outsider. And yes, the Republican congressional representatives do not like Trump. And the reason they don't like Trump is because he's making them look like idiots. And honestly, he just doesn't give a shit. And he's playing a different game. But yeah, nobody in politics likes Trump. Somehow Trump has won by making enemies out of everybody. It works. In politics, who knows? Several polls have shown that Americans lay more blame on Congress and the president for inaction in Washington. University asked a survey who is most to blame for the gridlock on health care. 46% said congressional Republicans, 29% said Democrats, only 15% said Trump. Well, I think it was kind of the Republicans' fault, and the reason it's their fault is because nobody actually did the work. They wanted to repeal Obamacare, but in order to repeal it, you have to do work and you have to write a document that is very difficult to write. Nobody likes to do this work. So when rubber hit the road, they didn't have the document yet, and this is just going to keep on happening until Trump is out of office. He has no incentive to do anything. And he has every incentive to make it appear like he is. The biggest donors on the right feel the same way. About 100 of the Koch network top donors, including billionaire industrial David Koch, huddled in St. Regis Hotel in Midtown Manhattan last Thursday and Friday for strategy sessions and briefings from elected Republicans. The network didn't support Trump during the 2016 campaign, but has supported his agenda this year. It was striking how little criticism there was of Trump, but the anger directed towards moderate Republicans in the Senate was palpable. Man, so the Koch brothers and their donors actually didn't support Trump, which is understandable because Trump won with like a third of the money, and he did it kind of all on his own. He did it by using media to the best. He understands media. That's how he won. So now the Koch brothers are like, holy shit, we didn't support the guy that won, and he definitely is a vindictive guy. So they're not going to now talk about because they like what he's doing. They want to get the tax cuts passed. So they can't really criticize him anymore, because they were proven wrong. Here we go, scrolling down. Overhauling the tax code is the group's highest priority by far. The Koch network plans to spend $300 million to $400 million on policy and political campaigns during the 2018 election. Yes, now it's time for them to regroup. The Koch brothers have all this money, these political resources across the country. They have to realize, okay, Trump's in. How do we now? Things are changed. The board, all the pieces were taken off the board. We got to start over. How are we going to go forward? This meeting does make sense, and why would they even? They can't control Trump, and who knows? All Trump's trying to do is make headlines, and I think they probably realize that by now. Koch officials briefed their benefactors on plans for a massive pressure campaign that will include television ads and events and the strategies of targeted members. This is the most significant federal effort we've ever undertaken. The president of Americans for Prosperity, which is part of the network. So they see an opportunity here. They can make it up to Trump by doing everything they can to get all the Congress and get all the smaller political jobs, getting those to Republican and not only Republicans, probably people that like Trump. This is a great opportunity for Republicans, but something makes me think Trump is going to troll them the whole time. The deadline has slipped, but leaders are still optimistic they can pass something by the end of the year. No, that's not going to happen. They take it as a given that Trump is on board and will sign whatever could clear Congress. Tax cuts would be the best Christmas gift imaginable for deep-pocketed donors and the corporations they lead. It would take away from a lot of the bad taste still left in their mouths from the failure of the repeal of Obamacare. The rich people don't care too much about that. They want these tax cuts. Maybe all this was just a hide the ball situation, and they're going to go all in and just get it through, and the Democrats are going to be blindsided. But a failure to follow through could cause some donors to close their checkbooks. Yeah, if they don't get tax cuts through and this doesn't end up well, who knows? They're incompetent people. Mike Pence is the only one that's not incompetent. Here we go. Vice President Pence addressing the Koch group on Friday afternoon put the onus on the legislative branch. I truly believe the future of this Congress depends on them working with our president to pass a tax cut this year. And honestly, our agenda depends on this Congress stepping forward and delivering on their promise to the American people. Well, they've been making promises for years. And here's the thing is, when Trump's in office, nothing's going to get done. He's incompetent. The scariest thing ever, if you like Obama's policies and you are more liberal in leading, the scariest thing in the world is President Pence. And honestly, I think I would just take Pence because I'm just so sick of the shenanigans from Trump and it's annoying. But I know that if Trump stays in, more of the Obama-era regulations and institutions are still going to be there when he's gone in 4 years. If we got Pence in there, he's somebody that actually understands government. And he was the governor of whatever state that was. He understands government. He can actually do work, and he wants to do work. So to a certain extent, he was kind of a good choice for Trump, who's now just going to not do anything for 4 years. He has no incentive to do anything. He's just going to make headlines, and he's going to be worth so many more billions when this is all said and done. I hate to say it, but Trump knew what he was doing, and he just happened to win it. Now he's going to be super rich, and he's doing loads of stuff behind the scenes that we're not even seeing. Now we're talking about all this garbage. Pence, who has close ties to the network, said that cutting taxes is the single most important policy for the future of America. Pence kind of is who we're scared of. I want to thank this network for everything you've already done to support this plan. We're grateful for all your support, but I'm here today on behalf of our president to encourage you to do even more. To get this tax cut across the line, we need every ounce of your energy and enthusiasm. He told the donors to reach out directly to their members of Congress. Use your voice, Pence said. Use the stature that you enjoy in your communities and your state and all across the country to share the opportunity that we have with this tax relief legislation. You know, we all, the rich need tax relief, that is for sure. Actually, who knows? Probably not. But they got to be loving Trump in office. Like, I mean, everyone in public could have said, like, oh, man, I can't believe Trump got in. But every rich person, every rich liberal in the country was like, whew, well, you know what? This is a silver lining. But, yeah, the rich people love tax cuts for the rich. Every time there's a conservative in office, they always go for it. You talk to your employees, talk to your suppliers, your fellow business leaders, and get them on board. And, of course, we need to talk to your elected officials about just how important this moment is for our nation. To become a member of the network, a donor must commit at least $100,000 per year to Koch linked groups. Many give far more than that. Yeah, they're super rich. Who's this guy? Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell is going to be around after Trump leaves. But this is just crazy. I can't believe Trump is the president. We're moving on. That's enough Trump. Let's see. Ahmad Rahimi found guilty in Chelsea bombing trial. So this guy was in New York. Looks like probably terrorist related. I think it was terrorist related. Set up a bunch of bombs. They caught him kind of quickly, and I think he was just found guilty. So No need. The danger of President Pence. See, this is what I just told you. Watch. Trump's critic yearns for exit, but Mike Pence, the corporate rights inside man, poses his own risks. This is exactly what I just told you. And, you know, it's too bad I'm not a good writer. I would have had this article before. Who is this guy? Let's take a Jane Mayer. I would have had this before you. But on September 14th, the right-wing pundit Ann Coulter, who last year published the book In Trump We Trust, expressed what a growing number of Americans, including conservatives, have been feeling since the 2016 election. The previous day, President Trump had dined with Democrat leaders in the White House and had agreed to a major policy reversal, granting provisional residency to undocumented immigrants who, yeah, you know what, Trump, he'll deal with anybody. Republican legislators were blindsided within hours. Trump disavowed the deal, then reaffirmed it. Coulter tweeted, "At this point, who doesn't want Trump impeached? If we're not going to get a wall, I prefer President Pence." Yeah, you're not going to get a wall. Trump's swerve did the unthinkable, uniting Coulter and liberal commentators after Trump threatened to totally destroy North Korea. Gail Collins, the Times columnist, praised Vice President Mike Pence as someone who at least seems likely to get the planet blown up this summer. An opinion, I don't even know what that meant. The President Pence is sounding better and better. He sounds better and better because he's not a troll, and he would just do what politicians do. Pence, who has dutifully stood by the president, mustering a devotional gaze rarely seen since the days of Nancy Reagan, serves as a daily reminder that the Constitution offers an alternative to Trump. The worse the president looks, the more desirable his understudy seems. The more Trump is mired in scandal, the more Pence is... Yes, this is exactly what I just said. Pence's odds of becoming president are long but not prohibitive. You know, it's definitely worse than 50-50. Of his 47 predecessors, 9 eventually assumed the presidency because of death or resignation after Lyndon Johnson decided to join the ticket with JFK. Anyway, if the job is a gamble for Pence, he himself is something of a gamble for the country. During the 2016 presidential campaign, relatively little attention was paid to how Pence was chosen or to his political record. And with all that fighting in the new administration, few have focused on Pence's power within the White House. Newt Gingrich told me recently that the 3 people with the most policy influence in the administration are John Kelly, Pence. Yeah, well, he kind of knows what he's doing, and he's definitely been loyal to Trump. That's what he cares about. I'm not going to read an article that just basically said what I said. Searching for missing worker continues after oil rig explodes in Louisiana. Man, these oil rigs, when they explode, people die. Weinstein Company in talks to sell to Trump's friends company. Oh, man. This is just with 1% selling another 1%. I mean, I don't see how, like, just because he's the boss, it seems like they can take his company pretty quickly and sell it pretty quickly. I don't know. It seems... I'd be pretty upset if I was Weinstein. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it, but it seems like if there's an underlying business that employs hundreds, if not thousands of people, it seems like an awful lot of change very quickly, when I'm sure there's another guy that can take over. Let's see what CNN has to say.
Yes, I think that one of the things that was so stunning to me in the New York Times story when they unearthed all of this was...
All right. These websites are not good. I think they got to start coding with what's called Jugular JS. I just heard about it. I don't know anything about it. But anyway, the crippled Weinstein Company may have a buyer, and he happens to be a close friend of President Trump. On Monday, the movie and TV studio announced a financing deal with Tom Barrack's private equity firm, Colony Capital. The deal will help the studio stay afloat in the short term. What, did all of a sudden they stop getting sales? I guess so. I don't know. Who knows what's going on behind the scenes? But more significantly, the Weinstein Company said it is negotiating with Colony for a potential sale or a significant portion of the company's assets. We will help return the company to its rightful, iconic position in the independent film and television industry. I don't see how Weinstein can be considered independent film. He's pretty... I mean, does he count as an independent filmmaker? Doesn't he have his own studio? He seems like a studio guy to me. I don't know. The sale could wipe away the Weinstein Company name and help the company recover from a widening sexual harassment scandal. Yeah, they are definitely going to have to change the name of that one. For the past 7 days, the studio has been dragged down by allegations of sexual misconduct against co-founder Harvey Weinstein. Weinstein was fired on the board on October 8, 3 days after the New York Times detailed a decades-long pattern of alleged harassment. But it's more than just I guess it is still alleged, but he was a total creep. And just an apology from the males here, everybody. You know, we're sorry. This one was he was on our team. It was terrible. We got to stop being so creepy. Here we go. Seattle brood. Amazon's rapid growth transforms a city, but it's complicated. Yeah, let's read this one. Well, that is pretty sweet, whatever that is. Let's hope that's planetarium. Seattle brood. Amazon's rapid growth transforms a city, but it's complicated. This is the heart of Armageddon. It starts at the aptly named Day One skyscraper on 7th Avenue, runs down Westlake Avenue for some 10 blocks deep into the heart of South Lake Union, a former warehouse district on the downtown fringe. Oh no, that's Amazon. Amazon calls this home. 8.1 million square feet of space spread over 30 buildings in a stretch of real estate that runs more than a mile. It's roughly equivalent to a distance from Point State Park to PPG Paints Arena. I guess they're trying to talk about how big this area is. I didn't get any of that. Some 40,000 strong employees, crowded sidewalks, coffee shops, and restaurants on a recent sunny Monday, competing for space with the cranes and construction that seem to be everywhere. You know the employees by their blue lanyards and their dogs. Yeah, you know, if you're allowed to bring your dogs to work, everyone's going to bring their dogs to work. That's why it sucks, but you can't bring your dogs to work. They're going to start fights. At Amazon, employees can bring their canine companions to work. About 4,000, okay, so 10%. You know what, I would be one of them. Absolutely. It's the numbers, that's just a lot of people. To a smaller extent, Snapchat is doing this in Venice right now, where they're just buying everything, or renting everything, or they're either buying and renting everything, and if they can't rent it, they're going to buy it. Or they can't buy it, they're going to rent it. The e-commerce giant is erecting another office building across the street from its Day One center. It's confirmed 2 weeks ago that it will lease another 722,000 square feet of another office tower, the second tallest in the Northwest. To be built in the heart of downtown with enough space for 3,500 employees. This is just so many employees. Let's take a look at this chart. I'm a big fan of charts. Amazon employees 40,000, additional jobs created for 50,000, annual hotel nights by visiting Amazonians and guests. So this is a lot of money for Seattle. So they have to, they got to be careful with how they handle this one. It's a dominating footprint for an online retailer that got its start in the garage of founder CEO Jeff Bezos in 1994. Man, this guy knew what he was doing right from the beginning. In Pittsburgh, the space Amazon occupies at its headquarters will be the equivalent of 4 U.S. steel towers. The company generates the kind of economic vitality that any city would covet. Seattle's unemployment is at the lowest in the country. The Downtown Seattle Association estimates that there are $5 billion in construction activity. Man, so you know what? Let's not complain. Seattle, you are getting hooked up by Amazon, if anything. Let's move on. Would you want them to go someplace else? And then instantly say no. Nordstrom suspends buyout after struggling to get financing. You know what? If you go to Nordstrom's Rack, it's the greatest. They have all the clothes, all the shoes. It's one-stop shopping. First sponsorship so far, and they don't even know. I'm going to say Nordstrom's Rack. Seriously, if you need clothes, go there. And it's somewhat cheap. We got entertainment. We got more Harvey Weinstein. Let's see how long I've been going for. 54 minutes. Let's see. A couple more articles, maybe. Oh, man. We got more Kaepernick news. Life without Aaron Rodgers. Wow. So Aaron Rodgers is out. That sucks. Broke his collarbone. Kaepernick is suing with the players union, or with the help of the players union, the owners. This cannot be a good decision. He has consistently made bad decisions, although I think the good one, him kneeling, I think was a good decision. I don't know. Things spun out of control for Kaepernick very, very quickly. He accomplished what he wanted to do very, very, very well, but I think he was a bit of the sacrificial lamb. God, this is gonna load any minute here, so I gotta put it on pause. Come on, just Sports Illustrated. These websites all take so long to load. It just, the videos are no good. They embed it into the website, and it just doesn't work. All right. According to multiple sources, free agent quarterback Colin Kaepernick has filed a grievance against the NFL for collusion. In March, I wrote a legal analysis of this scenario occurring and explained how it would work for Kaepernick and the NFL. The March title details the relevant procedures at play and how they are governed. All right. 1. Collusion requires actual cooperation between teams. Well, that seems hard to prove. Here's the scenario that has probably played out in recent months. Officials on one NFL team meet to discuss the team's need for quarterback. Kaepernick is one player they discuss, and officials then decided, without the involvement of any other team, not to sign Colin Kaepernick. Instead, the team signs a quarterback who, by objective metrics, isn't as good as Kaepernick. These officials even admit to taking such an approach because they believe Kaepernick would be a distraction. They also openly disagree with his political views and are offended by his kneeling during the national anthem. Sounds suspicious, right? It's not. At least not for the purposes of collusion. The scenario I just described is not collusion because they all have aligned interests. To be sure, those officials might regret not signing the, quote, better player. That's not the point. It's lawful for one team to not want Kaepernick on the grounds that the team officials don't like him. Along those lines, no NFL team is legally obligated to sign Kaepernick. For Kaepernick to prove collusion, he would need to show that 2 or more teams or league officials and at least one team conspired in some way to deny him opportunity to play in the NFL. Yeah, that seems really hard to prove. He needs evidence of collusion. This is, man, I think he is poking the hornet's nest way too much right now. Oh man, I don't know what. This isn't even about policing anymore. They have not mentioned policing one time. Kaepernick needs evidence of collusion. Yeah, of course he does. 3. The fact that Kaepernick is probably better than some quarterbacks currently on NFL rosters does not prove collusion. No, that certainly does not. I mean, these people are allowed not to hire whoever they want. Kaepernick proving that owners or teams officials are racially insensitive would not prove collusion. So now, to help make his case, he's going to have to, find out that these guys are racist, which I think is probably pretty tough to find also. This is not a good look for Kaepernick, I don't think. But I totally agree with what he was. I mean, maybe his method to protest, he knew exactly what I was going to do, but so that's kind of the point. And I think that it was certainly something that the country needed to talk about at the time, but that was over a year ago, and now we're totally someplace where we didn't start. And I don't know how to fix this for Kaepernick. How does he get out of this? He probably should have just. I mean, I thought the Ravens wanted him. Why didn't the Ravens hire him? I feel bad for him. Kaepernick proving that owners or team are racially insensitive. This is not, man, Kaepernick. I just hope things end up well for you. And you guys got to look into his girlfriend. I think she might be a bad influence. And she tweeted and totally Ray Lewis went out of it. Ray Lewis he got Kaepernick in a meeting. Ray Lewis was like, dude, we got to get this guy. It was going to make it happen. And then Kaepernick's girlfriend tweeted a picture from Django Unchained, and then the owner of the team of the Ravens, and comparing him to somebody trading black men, like the character in Django Unchained. It was such a troll, and I don't know if that's the reason why they didn't pick him up, but it certainly didn't help. And Ray Lewis, he ended up looking kind of bad in the whole situation. That's why if you refer somebody, especially working, he better be good, or he better be what you say. And it kind of made Ray Lewis look bad. This is not good for anybody, except for Trump. Somehow Trump made it to his advantage. Let's scroll down a little bit. Kaepernick must satisfy the, quote, clear preponderance of evidence burden. The system arbitrator will not decide the grievance based on whether Kaepernick must probably prove the case. Kaepernick must be somewhat more convincing. He must persuade the arbiter through a clear preponderance of evidence that collusions occurred and caused him economic injury. The word clear in the conjunction with preponderance of the evidence is noteworthy. Legal commentators who have studied this burden find that the evidence must be compelling in order to have the burden met. So let's hope that Kaepernick is a computer hacker and was able to hack into all the owners' emails, and he's got the evidence that they colluded, and this is a slam dunk case for a settlement, because it seems like anything short of that is not going to end well for him. Maybe he doesn't have to pay for his lawyers. I don't know. I can imagine how there's a lot of lawyers that would take that one on just for the media attention, which honestly I think that at this point that's all it's about. Kaepernick wanted to get an issue in the media. The media took it, and then they did their own thing with it. And Kaepernick is now left like, what the hell? All right, moving on. Still no articles about the Dodgers. Al Michaels drops a Harvey Weinstein joke on Sunday Night Football, then apologizes. You know what? We got to stop getting mad at people for jokes. Week 7 fantasy football waiver wire targets. See, you would think that Google would know that I'm in Los Angeles and send me a Dodgers article. This is why I started with it right off the bat. The Dodgers won 2-0 versus the Cubs. Let's see. We never get to science. I mean, oh, this one was a good one. This was what happens. This was one explosion bigger than a supernova. Scientists detect gravitational waves from a new kind of nova, sparking a new era in astronomy. So, 130 million miles away, there was 2 neutron stars that collided. And that's something that's never been observed. Oh, here we go. Some 130 miles away in a galaxy far away, the smoldering cores of 2 collapsed stars smashed into each other, and the resulting explosion sent a burst of gamma rays streaming through space and rippled every fabric of the universe. So the way that stuff gets formed in the universe is stars, they burn, and then they burn by nuclear fission, or nuclear fusion, but I think fusion, and they make elements. And they have very simple elements in them, and then when they smash together, you can get heavier elements. And that's how we went from something that was so light from back in the day to something like the Earth. Because the stars burn, they die, they smash, make heavier elements. And this is something that's been going on for a little bit, and this is the first time we've seen the biggest stars possible collide, and now we see evidence that collision would make something like gold, which is very, very heavy. So now we have observed evidence of something happening that we kind of knew happened because we have gold, so it must happen. But they had so many telescopes. They had every telescope that's worth anything pointed at this super. It's called I don't know what it's called. It's a different kind of. Anyway, I'm gonna keep reading. But they had every. All right. The distant collision created a kilonova, an astronomical marvel that scientists have never seen before. It was the first cosmic event in history to be witnessed both with traditional telescopes, which are on the ground, which can observe electromagnetic radiation like gamma rays, and gravitational wave detectors, which sense wrinkles in space-time produced by distinct cataclysms or explosions. So basically, all the telescopes that are important, all the space ones, all the ground ones, they're going to get all the ones that can detect any kind of anything from space, whether it's infrared, which is heat, or it could be what you see, which is light. They're all looking, and let's see. The detection, which involved thousands of researchers working from more than 70 laboratories and telescopes on every continent, heralds a new era in space research known as the multi-messenger of astrophysics. It's transformational, said Julie McErney, an astrophysicist at NASA's Space Flight Center in, I guess, Greenbelt, MD. What is that one? Maryland, who is involved in the effort. The era of gravitational wave astrophysics has dawned. And gravitational wave astrophysics is different too, because they have telescopes that can detect the actual space around stars and space itself curving. So the reason why we have gravity is because our planet is curving the space-time around us. It's similar to, let's say that you were on a trampoline and you put a bowling ball in the center of the trampoline, and then you took a golf ball and then you let go. It would roll towards towards the bowling ball, but it's not because the bowling ball is pulling it. It's because the bowling ball is curving the space around the ball and it's falling towards it. So the golf ball comes to it because it's curving that material, and it turns out space is the same way, and they've never really been able to measure this, and now they can. So they're like, oh my god, this is something that we can do now, and we got this huge explosion going on 130 million light years away. Let's point the telescope at it, and sure enough, they got like the craziest gravitational waves that you can imagine, and it all totally matched up with what they were supposed to be. So once again, Einstein is proved right. Let's keep on going. Yet, because black holes emit no light or heat, past gravitational wave detections cannot be paired with observations by conventional telescopes, which collect signals from what's known as the electromagnetic spectrum. The scientists at LIGO and its European counterpart, Virgo, hope to detect gravitational waves from a visible event such as a binary star merger or kilonova. This was a kilonova. Kilonovas are swift, brilliant explosions that occur during the merger of neutron stars, which are ultra-dense remnants of collapsed stars that are composed almost entirely of neutrons or uncharged particles. Collisions between neutron stars are thought to be 1,000 times brighter than the typical nova. Here we go. This is they got artist renderings of what kind of stuff happens, and this is how two supernova stars collide. And a gamma ray burst. Yeah, this is definitely an artist rendering, but and if you were out there and you're looking at it with your eyes, it wouldn't look like that. But if your eyes were telescopes, that's what it would look like. All the telescopes mixed together, because each telescope is able to read something differently. So you can kind of, that's what it looked like if your eyes were all the telescopes. It said this gamma ray burst has an interesting friend, a buckle. Anyway. This is awesome news. It's just something that, it's just the way that telescopes go. They're going to keep on getting better, and we're going to keep on finding new stuff. And you can't stop these guys. They're going to keep building bigger telescopes. They're going to get government money to build bigger telescopes. You try to stop them. Overall, I love it. Anyway, I've been going for over an hour. My name's Devin. Thanks for watching. I'll do this again, and I'll get better at it. Okay, bye.